have this situation where I have two lines, L1 and L2. What are the possibilities? How will you draw it? If you draw it, what can happen? So Harsh Goyal says that if I have 2 points, then there are two possibilities. So it could be that I would have chosen L1 and L2 to be the same line. So it could happen that L1 is equal to L2, right? Or it could be that they intersect. But if they intersect, how can they intersect? And how many points can they intersect? Can two lines intersect in 2 points? 3 points? At best, they can, if they don't coincide, at best they can intersect in 1 point, right? Or it might happen that they don't coincide, they don't meet at all. Yeah, so here, so L1 intersection L2, this has cardinality 1, or L1 intersection L2 is empty. These are the possibilities that we have. These are the 3 possibilities that we have. Okay. Now let's look at, so this is, let's call this A3. So, sorry. So let's call this, I think, let's call this A3, axiom 3. Okay. Now let's look at the 2 models that we have. So let's look at this one model that we had. If you remember, I had taken this to be xy in R2 such that x squared plus y squared is strictly less than 1. This is Keshav's favorite example. And the lines that I had taken were just simply just intersections with lines from the from R. So say I have these 2 points P and Q, and I have this line, I have this line L. I have this line L and I have this point P outside L. Can I draw a line which doesn't meet P? Yes. This is a line which doesn't meet. Do you notice something else immediately? Can I draw another line? Yes, Fiona?
We can draw many lines.
Draw many lines, you see. Many lines through P which does not intersect this L. Yeah. So now you see, think of it this way, that what are we doing here? We have our notion of lines in R2, right? But when we say 2 lines intersect, sometimes, like if we draw it on the plane, it's fine. But if we try to extend it, at some point we know they'll intersect in 1 point, or they won't intersect. But how do we know for sure? That is an assumption, that is an axiom that we are making, right? That it will happen that at some point those 2 points will, it will never happen that they won't meet. But if we actually want to look at it, think of it this way, that what we're doing now is we're just looking through a telescope and we're just looking at this set of lines and whatever we can see in the telescope. And our universe is completely restricted to this. We don't care what happens beyond our field of vision. We only care what happens within our field of vision, right? So you see, now over here, what we have is that we have a line. I don't care anything outside. I don't care. But now you see that I have so many lines which are parallel to this guy, right? So this doesn't satisfy A3. So this doesn't satisfy A3, right? But now you see there is a subtle point here. Let's go back. What was our A3? Given any line, there exists, and a point P, there exists a line such that something happens, right? So let me just sort of, yeah, there exists a line passing through passing through P such that something happens. What does it mean to say that A3 is not satisfied? In this case, what did it mean? Does there exist a line through P such, does there exist a line through P which does not intersect L? Yes, definitely. But what we have in R2, so sorry, the way I've written it, it satisfies A3. But what we have in R2, okay, there exists a, let me sort of append it. What I meant to write is there exists a unique line. That is what Viona said, right? She didn't want more than one parallel line. She only wanted one line. So there exists a unique line L prime which doesn't exist. Yeah. So in this case, there exists a line definitely, but there is no unique line, right? There are many different lines. There are many different lines. So in that sense, A3 is not satisfied. Yeah. Now let's look at the example of the sphere. Does this satisfy A3? So we had this x equals S2 and lines equals great circles. Yeah. So now tell me, if I give you, say, let's take the simplest thing. I take my line to be this great circle, and I take my point to be this fellow. Can you give me, does there exist a unique line through P, say this is L, which does not intersect L? How many of you think yes? Click yes. If you think no, click no. Okay. Yes, Anirban.
Yes, it will always meet somewhere. There doesn't exist any great circle which is parallel to the
Exactly.
given
There
line.
exists, there cannot exist, right? Why? Because I mean, you take any two planes passing through the origin, they will all, obviously the origin is there, they are going to intersect, right? And they will also intersect this unit sphere. So this is, Viona, this should be your favorite example, right? There are no parallel lines in this example. You take any two lines meet. So this is a special example in the sense that given any L and L prime, their intersection is always non. Yeah, their intersection is always non. So now we have these three cases. The as far as this A3 is concerned, so this also violates A3, but in a very different way as compared to this example. In a completely different way as compared to this example, right? So now we have these three cases. When we come to A3, so we have our standard R2, which I'm going to call, because let's pay homage to Euclid. We call it the Euclidean plane because that's what we study in Euclidean geometry. So this E is for Euclid and 2 is for plane, dimension 2. Okay, and we have this S2, okay, which is our sphere. And then we have that lens model, which let's call it H2. Okay. And what are the lines here? So the lines here are the usual. We want to write the usual lines. Okay. Here we have great circles. And here we have usual lines intersected with H2. Okay. And as far as A3 is concerned, this satisfies A3. Here, this doesn't satisfy A3 because it does not satisfy because there are no parallel lines. Okay. And here it does not satisfy because given any P which does not belong to L, there exists infinitely many L prime such that P belongs to L prime and L prime intersected L is empty. Okay. So we have these three different models which seem to be very interesting. And historically, they are actually also very interesting simply because we're getting towards the end. So let me just sort of wrap up with a little bit of history. Simply because, see, Euclid made this axiom that given any point, given any line L and any point P which does not lie on L, there exists a line through P which is parallel to L. It means which does not meet L. So this was known as the parallel postulate. So for a long time, so Euclid had many axioms in his elements. So what people over the years realized is that there are only, you don't need everything to be axioms. There are a few which can be proved by using a couple of axioms, 2-3 axioms, right? So the idea was to sort of minimize the number of assumptions that we are making. Okay. That sort of loosens our space, broadens our perspective a little bit, and that helps us expand. So they were trying to minimize as many axioms as they could. So they narrowed it down to 5 axioms. And this parallel postulate was the 5th one. So for a long time, people thought that, okay, let's try to see if we can prove the parallel postulate using the other 4 axioms. Okay. So this is sort of the mathematician's gambit. When a mathematician doesn't know how to prove something, he puts the entire game on the table. That I bet the entire game. Let's assume that what I'm trying to prove is false. And then you try to arrive at some contradiction. But what they realized is that rather than arriving at some contradiction, they're coming up with very nice, consistent models of geometry, which are extremely rich and extremely interesting. Okay. So they were not dissatisfied that they couldn't prove it. Oh gosh. I don't know why my Zoom keeps crashing. But they were not dissatisfied that they couldn't prove it. They were happy that they found something more and more consistent. They found something more and more consistent. They found more models which were not just consistent, but they were also rich. They were very nice, very interesting. And so broadly, and for a long time, what happened was it was just abstract. It was just theoretical. They didn't have a real model for it. They just had an abstract way of looking at it. They just said that, oh, we have these axioms. If we don't use these axioms, we still get these results. We can still make these conclusions. We can still analyze. We can still do this, that, and everything. But they didn't have any concrete models to understand these new geometries. Okay. It was only in the early 19th century to the late 19th, early 20th century that people started actually coming up with these models, right? So the one that I gave you, over here, this was sort of one of the first models that was considered. This is one of the first models that was considered. That the idea was just that forget about it. We don't know. I mean, we can't draw line extending up to infinity. We can only draw lines in a limited way on our page. So let's just see. Forget about what happens at infinity. If we just restrict ourselves to this limited field of vision, what do we get? And they got this very nice, beautiful model of geometry. Okay. So this is what is now known as hyperbolic geometry. So here this E2 is your standard Euclidean geometry. This S2 is spherical, or actually with a minor modification, what is called projective geometry, an example of projective geometry. And the reason I call this H2 is because this is an example of hyperbolic geometry. Okay. Personally, for me, H2 is my favorite. This is something I really love. But these are some very nice, rich examples of geometry. And in fact, you should think about it. We gave one model, but there isn't just one model for geometry, right? So there is another thing that I want you to think about. This is sort of an exploration that I want you to do. And you'll find all the details in the book. So again, I take my set X to be R2. Okay. And for lines, what I do is I take V union P. Now, what is V? V is the set of all vertical lines. This is the set of all lines of the form AX, where X is in R. And here this A is in R. Okay, so I'm taking all vertical lines. And what is this fellow P? This P is all sets of the form A plus X, B plus X squared, where X belongs to X, R2, R, and this AB belongs to R2. So basically, what am I doing here? So I have this standard parabola. Apologize for my drawing. Y equals X squared. And what is this P? I'm basically taking all translates of this. I simply translate this everywhere in the plane. Okay. So the exploration I want you to do is that we have these three axioms. Actually, four axioms: A1, A1 prime, A2, and A3. Try to see. So the picture that you have over here is, these lines are all these vertical lines. And I have the standard parabola and I have translates of the standard parabola. Okay. So try to see this model. Does it satisfy A1? Does it satisfy A1 prime? Does it satisfy A2? Does it satisfy A3? Now again, now you see that A3 is something that is very interesting, right? Very interesting. Okay. So this is one model that I want you to explore. Another model I want you to explore. So let's call this exploration 1. Another model I want you to explore is the following. I take X equals the set of all X, Y, and R2 such that Y is positive. That means I'm only taking the upper half part, the upper half. And for lines, what do I take? For lines, I take again V, which is vertical lines. And of course here, let's call it V prime, which is vertical lines intersected with the upper half plane, obviously. Okay, union with C. Now what is C? This C is the set of all xy such that x minus a squared plus y squared equals R square, and here this A belongs to R, this R is first. Okay. So in this geometry, what do I have? So here, what am I taking? I am taking the upper half part. So I don't care what happens below the x-axis. I don't care what happens at the x-axis. And in the upper half part, the lines that I'm taking are all these vertical lines. And I'm taking these semicircular arcs with centers at the x-axis. Okay. So again, try to see which axioms it satisfies. Okay. So there are, Sangeeta, can I take 5 minutes?
Sure, sir.
Yeah. So there are two things that I want to point out. One is the point that Keshav raised. And I think a few of you also mentioned that I can take the distance between 2 points and things like that. And I think Keshav was the one who was mentioning, right? That I have so many different curves and these straight lines that we have, it's the shortest distance between the 2 points.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is another intuitive notion that we have. We also have this notion that the straight line segment gives us the shortest distance between the 2 points. Yeah. But what is this idea of distance that we're taking? How are we measuring distance in R? We measure distance by using our usual Pythagoras theorem, right? So the distance between 2 points, we simply measure by looking at this Pythagoras theorem, right? If this is x, this is y, we take it to be square root of x squared plus y squared. Yeah. So this is what we mean. So another way of thinking about a straight line, again, what do we mean by a straight line? Now, I have many different ways of going from this point to this point. Like, see, for example, if you live in Mumbai, you will have a path like this. There'll be so many potholes, so many people, so many cars and so on. You cannot reach anywhere from in a straight line. You have to hop, skip and jump. You might not even have to follow you might not even be able to follow a continuous path. Okay. But if you're living in a nice place, if you're in like in the mountains or something like that, where there are nice open spaces, there are many paths you can take. You might meander, but you know that the shortest distance is always going to be these two, the straight line, right? So one point to consider is all these sets that we've defined, like again, go back to this space, right? I have this notion, I'm calling these vertical lines and these semicircular segments as lines. But does it match with my intuitive idea of straight lines? Is it the shortest distance? What is this notion of distance that I'm defining over here? What is this notion of distance that I'm defining on the sphere to think of this great circle as a straight line? Okay. So answers to these questions is what will get you into the study of this subject called differential geometry. Again, the one book to rule them all, the last 3 chapters of this book will answer all these questions. Will take you in a systematic way through all these questions. Okay. What is your notion of straight lines? How do we do it? Okay, so I would recommend reading this book. And the second point I want you to consider, this is again a part of the exploration, which is that now we have defined many models, right? Now you look at all these models and say you compare, you say that, okay, I have this model that is in front of you, and I have that lens model where I had infinitely many parallel lines. So if this one does not satisfy A3, you see what the behavior is. And if the behavior is the same, then try to see, are these two models related in some way? Are they the same model? Is it just a question of perspective? like you can also think of this parabola model. You try to see which axioms it satisfies. If it turns out that it satisfies all the axioms, then is this just a twisted, warped way at looking at my standard R2? Okay, so you've got to ask yourself all these questions. So I think this is a good place to stop. I will leave you with a lot of exploration, and I hope you enjoyed the talk. So thank you very much. I've said this before, but I cannot say this enough. Thank you so much for curry leaf. And I would encourage everyone who is here, if they have not joined the Facebook page, or if they haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, I would really encourage them to do so. The Curry Leaf team has done a fantastic job in organizing these lectures, and they will continue to do so. So all my wishes for their success, and of course, as an MTTS alumni, I'm also a part of Curry Leaf. So if you need any help, please let me know. And I really encourage everybody to join the Facebook page and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Right? Thank you, Curry Leaf.